Welcome everyone to Web3SecurityClan's podcast. The main discussion of today's talk will revolve around job hunting. We will learn why most CVs are not working, how to improve your visibility for companies, the soft skills to improve to get an edge, and some examples on how to prepare for an interview or how to show your interest to the recruiters. Enjoy! So, welcome everyone. We have today Gayantha and Pavani from RareTalent, which is a branch at RareSkills. So you told me, Gayantha, that last year RareTalent reviewed over 4,000 CVs over the whole year. It's pretty impressive. So first, would you like to present RareTalent, please?
Sure. First of all, Strapanin, thank you for having. Did I get your name right? Strapanin?
Strapontin. But yeah, it's okay.
Strapontin. Yeah, cool.
You can call me Strap
First of
if you
all,
want.
yeah, right. Strap is better. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Great to be here. Thank you for having us. Pretty excited to do this. I think a lot of people are actively looking for jobs, so I think this is a great opportunity to share some of the stuff that we learned over the last few years, and especially we learned a lot last year. I want to make a quick correction on the number of people that we spoken to, or rather onboarded into the talent pool. It's over 400. 4,000 is a massive number. We have a very
Okay,
small
sorry.
team. But yes, but still, nevertheless, talking to 400 people over the last year. I think Pavani did most of the heavy workload in terms of speaking to them and then sort of understanding their experience and then getting them into the talent pool. So let me give you a quick breakdown or rather introduction to RareTalent. We are the recruitment arm of RareSkills. As you very well know, RareSkills is an education company. We started with boot camps, but at the early stages of RareTalent, we were helping engineers to find jobs because we were upskilling engineers. However, when we were talking to companies, hey, they were like, "Hey, do you happen to know like not a smart contract engineer, do you know like a back-end engineer or a front-end engineer?" So we were like, okay, maybe there's a market for this. So let's properly launch this company. So we launched Rare Talent, I think, late part of 2023. I would say maybe around August, September. And then Pavani joined early last year. So as a company, we only work with, um, as a recruitment agency, we only work with Web3 companies and we only help Web3 technical resources like developers who are looking for jobs. We don't go into Web2 or non-technical roles. So we are specifically focusing in that area because um, that's where we are really strong at as a company. If you look at our funnel, as in like how we onboard engineers into our platform, is mainly through Rare Skills. We have a few advertisements on our blog, and we also have pretty good distribution on Twitter. And um, so yeah, people see our advertisements on our website, and then and what we talk about Rare Talent on Twitter. Through that, people find out about us, and then they apply, and we connect them with top Web3 companies. So typical like a recruitment agency, but only focused in Web3 technical roles. So that's about Rare Talent.
I see. So you help people reviewing their CVs up to getting a job, basically, right?
Correct. So actually, like it's funny how this started, this whole CV review thing, because at the very early days of Rare Talent, we were just getting CVs and sending it to companies. And then what I realized was like good 60 to 70% of the candidates, although they're very good technically, they are competent, they're getting rejected. So I wanted to sort of dig deep into it to understand why are they getting rejected. Although when we speak to them, or rather the instructors would say, hey, look, this guy's really good, like, he should be, you should be able to place him quickly. That wasn't the response from the company when we referred that individual. So when I sort of dig deeper into it, I realized that engineers are not the greatest marketeers. They don't market themselves very well. They, in fact, heavily under invest on their profile or their CV. So and I haven't been a recruiter, and in fact, like my whole recruitment career or working in recruitment started with RareTalent. So I was trying to look at the problem not from a angle of a recruiter. I was just trying to solve this problem of how can we get these competent engineers more higher chance of succession. So then we realized, okay, the CV is not done properly. So why don't we help them to get the CV done? Which that's how we started with the CV review service, which we offer to any developer who sign up with us and get accepted to our talent pool. So we started working on the CV. We realized there are a lot of common issues when it comes to CVs, from from the start to the how they showcase their experience to the technologies that they know, how they list their Web3 experience, which typically Web3 experience doesn't fit into a traditional CV, so they have a lot of gaps as well. So we sort of addressed one by one, and then every time when we get feedback from a company, we would sort of go back to our notes and then note it down, and then um, ultimately I think we have come up with a very good template that increases the chances of engineers getting an interview, because something that we always say is that the real, like, the intent of a CV is to get you a job, but the real goal of the CV is to get you a conversation, because in a conversation there's a lot of things that you can explain, but you are like you're fighting for attention on paper when you send a CV. Like, along with you there'll be 200 other people who are sending CVs for the same role. So how do you highlight yourself in such situation, because you are not there in person to to physically explain why you are better, right? So how it's you're fighting for attention on paper, so you really need to highlight all your Web3 related skill set on that CV so that you get the conversation. Once you get the conversation, it's a different story. It's all about showcasing you're competent, and then like how easy to work with you, things like that. So yeah, so that's how we came about this whole CV review process.
Okay, great. From what you told me before, uh, Pavani, you are more the people on the team who review the CV more than Gayantha, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so can you tell me what's what makes a good CV? Like, how should I write my CV in order for it to be read by recruiters and interesting at the same time, and not rejected, for example, by TTS, by robots?
Yeah, so like Gayantha said, we started this, and then every time we also get a lot of feedback from the hiring managers directly. We've come up with a few key things. I would say I won't go into like a lot of details, but like a few key things that we've identified that can optimize a CV, right? When you're like submitting it to any other role. So a few things I would say, just to start from the beginning, like general things, like the length of the CV even. We say, okay, sometimes engineers think a one-page CV is the way to go because the norm is that more than that is too long. But what we've found out is that actually even our template is 2 pages, and 2 pages is completely acceptable because sometimes in a one-page CV, you're underselling yourself. You won't have enough space to put all of your contributions. So then you end up missing a lot of things out. So even things like that, after so many, like talking to a lot of engineers, talking to a lot of companies, we've realized a 2 page CV is the ideal. And also more than that is a little bit too long as well. So that's one key thing. And then like there are basic things like your header. We can definitely optimize that. Even though these things, some of you might think, okay, not, significant enough, but it actually makes a bit of a difference, and it makes the hiring manager's life easier. So that's where we are coming from. We just want your CV that will make the hiring manager's life easier. That will make them easy to read your CV, and there's a better flow. So even from the header, you put all of your links like your email, your GitHub, your LinkedIn, your Twitter profiles, and then add your Telegram address so that it's easier for them to contact you. Add your location, add your time zone. So then all of those basic info is out of your way from the beginning. That's one key thing. And then, of course, like I've also come across that adding a professional summary also helps quite a bit to getting a better flow for your CV. Um, yeah, do you want me to go into more detail? There's like a lot of like key feedback we do have, but yeah, generally a few things like that makes your CV stand out.
We do have a CV template. Do you want us to go through some of that quickly and then just show you, like, this is how it should be structured?
Yeah, you can. I will probably download it and give it as a give the link on the video of the podcast,
Yep,
whether it's on YouTube and Spotify.
right. If I share my screen, that will be visible. Will that be visible?
I'm not sure, but for us maybe, but on the podcast
On the
episode, people
podcast, it
won't be
won't be,
able to
right?
see.
Okay,
Right.
right. Okay, okay, okay.
But I can go
Yeah,
through
I
a few
mean,
other things if needed.
yeah, I think Pavani, you should talk through like
Okay,
the key achievement section, the technical skills, and then how you
sure.
to talk about experience as well.
Yes, so let me just give you a very high level idea about how to like structure the whole CV. So like I said, the header is quite important as well. So add all of your links there. Make sure those links work and up to date. And especially if you're adding your social profiles as well, make sure they're up to date and you're active on it. Adding a profile that doesn't have much activity is also won't be like a good look. Then we move on to a professional summary, like I mentioned before. So you can always mention your years of experience, your core areas of expertise, and then other interests you have. This will create that flow and it will give out the idea about what you're looking for and then what your strengths are for any hiring manager from the start itself. And then, of
Um,
course, yes, Gayantha.
can I just add something to that? Something that we commonly see is that when people list their GitHub or LinkedIn or whatever, they use the full URL, right? This is very simple thing, but nobody needs to know the entire URL. All they need to know is your username or rather the link to your profile, right? So the simplest thing you could do is just say LinkedIn and then just hyperlink it so that they can visit it. And also when it comes to something specifically for security researchers, um, I notice sometimes security researchers who are at a very early stage in their career, when they don't have any wins on like on competition like platforms like Code Arena or Cantina, they still list it. If you don't have something significant win on your profile, it's better not to mention it at that point because it can lower down the expectation. So be cautious of what you list. If you have something like significant wins or significant like a notable wins, then yes, by all means, go ahead and mention it. So that's one thing. When it comes, and also, um, we see a lot of people sending their CV with a profile photo, right? What you got to understand is we are not in hospitality or like modeling or in those industries. We are in deep tech, right? No one's going to judge you on your how good you look, or that's not going to be a considering factor for an interview. So you don't need to add a profile photo. It's just only going to distract the uh, recruiter, or it's just going to waste some space where you could actually mention something more important there. So these are very basic stuff, but it's, I think, still important because you have to understand what's your playing field. You are in deep tech, and people who are interviewing you are mostly looking at a terminal for about good 8 to 10 hours. So let's keep the CV very text-based. and clear and keep clean and clear for someone to comprehend your all the information about you. Over to you, Pawan.
Definitely. Yeah, like Gayantha mentioned, profile pictures, even personal information like birth dates, addresses. We really don't have to mention those in your CV. Even things like general interests, hobbies. Yeah, I think you can rather utilize that space to kind of explain your technical contributions further. Yeah, so and then moving on, you have your header, a clear header, and then you have your professional summary. Then we've introduced this section called key achievements. So basically, this is to add your biggest wins and highlights across your work experiences, your projects, grants, publications, or research, or even open source contributions. This is because if you have a lot of experience, a lot of years under your belt, and then we just want you to summarize the key things you're most proud of and then put it right on the top. That way, even before they go to the second page or even at the end of the first page, they're already like really intrigued by your work. And if your results are really great, that's going to make them actually scroll furthermore and then see in detail what you have done. So that's the idea behind key achievements.
Yeah, this ultimately comes down to, like when you recruiters go through a lot of CVs within a day. Like I think even yesterday, John from Arbitrum Foundation, he did a very good breakdown on what they're looking for when someone applies to Arbitrum. Um, what he said was you only have about 6 to 7 seconds to make an impression. Like there is a flow that the recruiters go through. So as an applicant, it is my job to make sure that all the information that recruiters should see, make it clearly visible for them. It is my responsibility to make an impression on them because for them, they see 200 other CVs on the same day. So you are competing for attention. So how do you bring out that attention? That's why we introduced this section called key achievement section because you are starting your CV with a bang, right? Like you say, hey, look, I've worked over the last 5 years. These are the areas that I've worked on. I built like smart contracts and which has a TVL of X million dollars or whatever, right? And I've helped protocols to onboard this many users. So that really grabs the attention of the recruiter, and then the recruiter will read your CV with, a lot more enthusiasm. And ultimately, what you want to happen is by the time the recruiter finish your two-page CV, they should feel like, hey, you know what, this guy is pretty solid. Like we should have a chat with him, right? That's the sort of thought that you want to leave the recruiter with. Yeah, over to you, Pavani.
Yeah, so key achievements, and then we'll go section by section, and then Gayantha and I will talk about each section. So then we have your technical skills section, basically your tech stack, right? So here, what we mostly see from engineers is that they try to put everything that they know. Like it's gonna take. We've seen like even like half a page or a quarter of a page. Even the text, maybe the programming languages you're a beginner at, so our advice there is to like avoid those generic or beginner level mentions, like familiar with Python or basic knowledge of Dockers, things like that we can avoid. And then instead like highlight the best, like the most confident you are in that your tech stack. So then it will be like a well organized toolbox basically, not like, not a very crowded tech stack that even when we see it, then the hiring managers won't like read all of it. Anything else to add there, Gantha?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you move on to your work experience section. So this is where you'll go into depth about each of your roles for the last maybe 4, 5 years, 6 years. And then what we tell how to optimize your work experience section is from mentioning your specific contributions with some measurable results. That how you can do that is like back your results with some quantified stats wherever that's possible. Because, who's going through your CV will also be like a technical person. And then, seeing numbers and seeing these really good quantified stats will grab their attention. So the more you do that and be very straightforward with your technical contribution, don't again give very generic statements or go overboard with those like big long sentences as well. For simple example, I'd say if you led a team, just mention the number of team members that you led as well. Things like that matters, and it shows, it backs your statement a lot more and adds credibility.
One thing to add there is like never to lie on your CV. Um, we often see like I wouldn't say often, but like we've seen CVs like that, and it's very easy to understand that someone's lying on their CV or not. And believe me, like we are not even like deep technical people. We are as recruiters, as rare talent, and we are sending it to companies where people have been in the industry for good 10-15 years, and for them they can smell it a mile away. Like if someone's lying on their CV, they'll know. So be very transparent, and then about who you are and what you have achieved. um and you should be able to defend that in an interview.
And also, if you are transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3, and then you have like say 5 years, and then the 5 years previously also you worked at Web 2 companies, of course, mention those roles, but you don't have to go in detail and then utilize the space in your CV for those roles. I would say keep those into like a very minimized couple of bullet points, but put more focus onto your Web3 and then make your CV more Web3 specific. Right. And then, of course, we have your projects, open source, and hackathon sections. Anything outside of work, you might have, done some short-term projects, some open source contributions. Mention those definitely. And if they are, you've taken those idea from concept to code to deployment, mention them, and then also add them links like to show your work so that it's again a lot more credible. And even for hackathons, you can always mention like the notable wins. I would say again, not to overcrowd your CV. If it's like a participation, I would honestly recommend to like not add it. But if it's like a first, second, third place, or like a very significant project, you can always mention your hackathons as well. Right. Gayantha, anything on that section before I move on?
uh no, I think that's, yeah, I think then we can go into education, and then
Right. So the last few sections after that is basically your education, your professional certifications. If so, I would start with if you don't have university level education as well, you can always mention as a self-taught learner in your professional summary if that's how you came into Web3, and that's completely fine as well. But if you do have some of the university level, undergraduate, bachelor's, PhDs, mention those very in bullet points, very short form, and then also your professional qualifications. It could be a boot camp, any courses that you have taken, certifications, mention those as well. And then, of course, if you have any publications that you have done, any extras to strengthen your profile, that that could be speaking engagements, podcasts, videos, content you've done, community roles. So all of that also you can just mention at the end with some links to show your work. So yeah, I think that will give a very fully nice flow, because that's like a really good structure to from top to bottom, and they'll know like what exactly your entire profile looks like from this CV.
Okay, great. So overall, the main things to remember are the links in the header, the first thing that recruiters want to see. Only the links to the profiles that we haven't left aside, because we want to show off on the whole CV, and having one column with maximum 2 pages. Okay.
Correct. And keep it relevant, like it's okay to showcase your Web2 experience, but let's say you've done some like when it comes to education, if you've done, let's say you've done something related to sports or whatever, there's no relevancy. You are not applying for a sports related job, you are applying for a blockchain related job. So keep, if it's not relevant, don't mention it, because it's only going to take the attention away from the things that's required attention.
Okay, great. And so once we have a good CV, how can I manage to land an interview? Like, how do I go from being CV ready to be actually someone who's interested by the recruiters?
Um, right. So this is actually, I feel it's not just one part of it. There's multiple stages into it, right? So what you have to realize, I think at the moment, any builder or any security researcher, anyone in the industry, um, one, you need to have the knowledge. That's the basic. Like you need to know, you need to be competent of your job. But the CV, what CV does is packaging all your experience into a nice, like a document. But you also need to build your distribution. This is something that we very strongly advise to all our applicants in our talent pool, that start documenting your journey, right? Twitter is a great place for that. Even though the algorithm is a bit crappy these days, still start documenting, because companies are looking for not just great engineers, they're looking for engineers who can you know articulate themselves very well, communicate their ideas very well to a larger audiences. So if you build, once you build your skill set, and you nicely package it up with, in with a CV, and then your GitHub profile, and then your Twitter profile, your LinkedIn profile, all that, and then you start distributing sort of to people. So one is obviously you can apply directly to companies, and then, or you can work with recruiters, or you can go through job boards and start applying for it. However, if you have built very good distribution, or rather build a good social profile, that will increase your chances of getting an interview. One thing that I see is that, like, people don't put so much effort into building their social profile, and they kind of expect people to find them. That that doesn't happen, like unless you go through a referral, or like someone recommended you. It's very hard to find jobs like that. So my suggestion is, yeah, not just to build your skill set, just also to build your social profile, your distribution. Because honestly, that's the path with least resistance to finding a job. In the sense that, because if you apply through a job board, or a like through a company website or whatever, what happens is you are applying with 200 other people for the same job. But if you build distribution, like if you, like, talk what you build on a daily basis on Twitter, that's going to generate a lot of inbound leads for you. As in, people are going to notice the work that you do. Um, I mean, we all follow like some of the great security researchers on Twitter, and we know why we follow them, right? Because of the work that they put in, and we want to learn from them. So that's a great way to find jobs, not only just by like applying for jobs. And also, I would suggest attending events, or rather networking, like just networking in general, whether it's attending an event in person or whether it's doing a virtual session. Regardless, network with people. That will bring you a lot of opportunities too. Um, yeah, those are some of the ways I think you can get employed this current market. But not gonna lie, right now I feel like the market is very, very competitive, in the sense that there's very little number of jobs available, but there's so many people trying to apply for it at the moment.
Yeah, it makes sense. And so we really have to get a higher ground if we want to land the job. So these are very good examples. You see, I'm actually trying to get what's the name for it already? Volunteer for ECC at Cannes this year,
Yep.
because the entry is a bit expensive for me, and if I can
Mhm.
manage to be a volunteer, I will have access to the event, and I think it will
Yep.
be a really good opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you made a good point there, right? In the sense that yes, you can you can go as a volunteer too. However, what we know with crypto industry is that there's so many side events. Like this, if it's a big conference, there's at least bound to be good 80 to 100 side events. Um, we noticed last year, was it last year or year before at DevCon in Bangkok that had like close to 800 side events. Token 2049 in Singapore had close to, I think more than 500 side events during that week. So pick your niche, find a good side event, just make yourself busy during that time period, like meet people, build the network, seek for advice, build good relationships, showcase the work that you do, follow them on Twitter so that they are aware of, get them to follow you on Twitter so that they are aware of what you do. I honestly think in the current day and age, building your social profile is equally important as building your skill set. And being able to write is very, very underrated skill set at the moment. So if you can master not just the technical side, but also writing, I think that's going to be an easy path to find a job than going through job boards, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's something I realize as well. And so, just to describe for people who are not yet aware of the uh, main crypto events, when we refer to the main event, it's the main event, sorry, that is taken place. But almost every time for each of these events, there are what we call side events, which are some other events in the city that we can join for free. And so basically, you only have to pay for um, the hotel or for sleeping there. But you don't have to pay necessarily for the main event to participate for those. And it's really interesting because we really meet some great people there. And also, I would like to know. So you talked about we need to have some presence on social media. What social profiles would you recommend? I think crypto is mostly using Twitter, X.
Correct, correct. Yes. Um, excuse me. I would say Twitter is the best place because um, I've seen everyone's having a LinkedIn profile, but LinkedIn, I, I haven't really had much, personally, I haven't had success in terms of finding people, good people, or even people being very serious on it. I feel crypto sorry, crypto folks are on Twitter. All the legitimate ones are on Twitter, and then it's very easy to engage with someone on Twitter. So more than LinkedIn, I would suggest crypto is for security researchers as well as builders. Twitter is much better. I see a lot of legitimate conversations about what's happening in the industry. Um, but yesterday, when I was sort of watching this Arbitrum, one of their recruiters, John uh, from Arbitrum, he made a video and he was commenting that it's equally important to have a updated LinkedIn profile because you can, they look for that. just to validate the your previous work and whatnot. So I encourage people to having an updated LinkedIn, but be active on Twitter because that's where everything is happening.
I see. I also know that there is something that's called, I think, Zencaster. Do you know about it? I never used it.
I know Farcaster is there.
So far,
I have a profile, but I don't use Farcaster. I just use Twitter. I know Farcaster is Web3 based, but I think it's if you have the time and capacity to maintain two profiles actively on two different channels, by all means go ahead. But I just don't have the time or the patience to do it, so I just focus on Twitter for that. Yeah. But Discord is also a good place to network and meet people. Different Discord servers. I mean, you guys are running one, so that's a good place. Obviously, RareSkills has one too, so we have a pretty good set of engineers in that. We do have a private group on Slack, but that's mostly for our students. So I would suggest, yeah, Discord, Twitter, and in-person events are the top three for my recommendation for networking with people.
And so once we land an interview, how should I prepare for it? What should I know about the company, and what question will they ask me? What should I prepare for to answer?
So in typically with our customers, there are multiple interview rounds, right? Some companies have 2, 3, and it can go up to about 7. I know some people were, you know, the last couple of days, some people were bashing on like, oh, you should never have 7 interviews or whatever. But I understand this from HR manager's point of view, why they have so many interview rounds. So let me get to the start with like the two, like how the interview process typically works, right? So um, what we've seen is that usually the HR will have an interview with you first, just to understand whether, to check your communication skills, your previous work. This is not to HR will not be able to validate your previous work because they won't ask any technical questions, but they will ask questions to understand how good of a cultural fit you are to the team. And once you get through that, then usually you go through a technical test, and which will get followed up by another technical interview with someone from senior from the company. Then if it's an established company, like if it's a layer one, or a company which has been around for more than 5 years, like let's say Arbitrum or whatever, right? I actually don't know Arbitrum's process, but I would assume they would have a few more interviews with like an engineering manager, or maybe finally wrapping it up with the CTO or whatever. The reason why they do this is because the big companies are expecting, or I would say any company is expecting them to work with you, and rather for you to work with them for a long period of time. And they are not hiring for a short term, they are hiring for long term. And they want people who are a good cultural fit, not just the technical competence. Obviously, the technical competence will be measured when they do the technical interviews as well as the exams or whatever. But being able to, work together in a team is very important because this is a deep tech job, requires long hours. So being a good cultural fit is very important to these companies. So when you get to an interview, um, I obviously you have to be very competent of, like you have to be able to defend your CV, right? You said you have done these things, showcase that, right? You've said you've helped them to achieve certain goals, achieve certain milestone in your previous company, defend that, talk about that. But then also, I think it comes to a point where the recruiter will ask, hey, do you have any questions about that? About the company or anything that you would like to know. Most of the time, engineers will say, no, I don't have any questions. That kind of shows lack of preparation. Make sure you have some questions to ask about the company. Ask about the culture, ask about what are the opportunities that you have within the company, how you can grow yourself in the company, because that shows that you're not just looking to come and work 9 to 5, take the salary and go home. You're looking to grow with the company, showcase that's your bigger vision. I think those are some of the ways that you can make the interview very two-way than just rather than a one-way interview, where the recruiters also feel like, hey, this guy seems to be pretty good. Yeah, those are some of the suggestions that I have. I mean, we can't uh, I can't really tell how to prepare for an interview, because it, it's a very much of a technical role. So whatever said and done, if you're not technically competent, you will not get through. That's rule number one. So you have to be very, very technically competent of what you do. But in general, I would say asking questions, learning about their culture or knowing about the company, what they have done in the past, what they have achieved in the past, bringing that in the conversation. Even bringing up things like, where you see a flow in their organization, or rather where you think and how you can make an improvement into the organization, where you see a gap. Those are some of the things that you can talk, because that showcases that you have done the homework before you came to an interview and you're genuinely interested in working with this organization.
I see. So, for example, I'm trying to find examples that would be relevant and so purely hypothetical, of course. So, if I were to apply for a job at RareSkills, should I ask a question like what what articles would you need me to create to make to expand rare skills reach, for example? Would it be a good question?
I would say so. I would also like think about it from you could probably ask, hey, look, okay, my background is security, and I want to what type of content could I create in terms of security? And you could ask about what are some of the challenges that I would face while working on this specific topic. Like, let's say formal verification, for an example, right? You want to sort of publish some articles about that. You could ask, okay, where would I get blocked? Do you have any previous experience working in this area? And then where did you get stuck? Why wasn't this done earlier, right? Have you given an attempt, like a try to sort of write articles on formal verification, and why didn't you? I would assume, yeah, those are some of the questions that you can ask. And you can also ask, like, how are you going to measure my performance? Like, or do you have some KPIs that I should be thinking about? So that how my success, like what's my success gonna look like once I complete these articles. Did that make sense?
It's difficult for me to uh, understand the question, what would my success look like after I complete this article? See, it's quite, how do you say, abstract.
Yeah. You could ask that question from the interviewer. Like, if you're applying to Rare Skills, you could ask, how are you going to measure my success?
Oh,
Like,
oh,
yeah.
okay, I understand.
Yeah. I'm not asking you what are your KPIs. I'm asking, like, that's a question that you can pose to the company and ask, hey, look, I want to write about formal verification. Like, if I do that, like, how are you going to measure my success? Right? Is
Yes.
it the number of people who read my article, or number of people who comment on the article, or is it like, how viral it gets? Like, the different matrix, right?
Okay, yeah, very interesting, very nice tips. I really like it. So the next question I have is, actually it was, yeah, at the end of the interview they may have, if we have any question, so you just answer that. So that's wonderful. Let's say we have, I'm currently in the process of getting a job, and the recruiters is not seeing only my profile, but he's seeing a lot of different people, and I would really like to know what to them will separate a good candidate from a hire. So besides the experience, I could ask, what should I work on to increase my candidate charisma? We could say.
Uh, I would say that's a very big win for, like, if you have good engineers who can really articulate themselves and communicate themselves very well on, whether it's a blog post or whether it's a um, Twitter post, that's a win for the company. Because typically, teams are, especially like if you're a early stage company, that would value extremely well, because they want people who can talk about their product and then onboard more developers into their ecosystem, right? But even if it's a big company, like let's say like Monad, they would still value it. Like, if you've seen Monad, their marketing on Twitter, right? Literally everyone on the company is on Twitter, right? And they're talking about what they're building. And that's a big, big growth, like a driver for them. So any company would, I would say, they would extremely value you being able to articulate your ideas and communicate that to a larger audiences very well. I think that's a big, big win.
Very nice. I will try to follow Monad's buyers, to follow who works at Monad, to see what they post on. If you say it's good examples, then it must be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, for you, I would suggest the folks at Satora does a pretty solid job. Even yeah, like I've seen, the auditors on, like, people who are competing on Cantina, they do a pretty solid job. Guys at Recon, Alex the entrepreneur is pretty solid. Yeah, I think you follow half of them anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, probably. The first one that came to mind was Finn, who's working now. I think he's still working at Sartora, and yeah,
Mhm.
he's very active on X.
Yep, yep.
Okay, and so the last big question that I have would be, when a recruiter asks a candidate about salary expectations, what's the best way they like to hear it answer? Should we give a range? Should we try to get them to reveal the range first? Or should we, for example, ask someone working there to how much they are paid, to try to get an edge on our side from the negotiation, maybe?
Mhm. Yeah, first of all, I would ask if they have a budget. If goods, I would say 60 to 70% of the companies are pretty transparent with their budget, so they should let you know. If they are within, if that's within, tell them, be transparent about what your expectation is. But if they don't tell you, we would like to say that, hey, we'd like to know from you what your expectation is. It's okay to give a range. But when you're giving a range, make sure, like, let's say you say 80 to 100K, right? The recruiter will only hear 80 part. They will not,
Yes.
right? Like, how can we save 20K? But if you have justified in the interview that you deserve 100K, then I think you can say that, hey, look, I think based on the workload and my previous experience, I think I want to go for 100K. You can mention that. And I don't think you should be afraid to talk about your salary. Usually salary discussion comes at the end. By the time especially if you work with us as a recruiter, like we are very transparent about salary. Like when the company because we when someone applies to us, we know there's a field that they have to let us know, like they have to tell what's their salary expectation. So when companies ask us, hey, how much is this guy cost, and then we tell them that directly. So that's the case with us. So we are very transparent in that. However, I understand like when you're applying for jobs, that's not the case. So um, I always start with giving with a range. But I would also like when it comes to negotiations, I would try to if they are not willing to, if the company doesn't have budgets to sort of hit your 100K, but they only have budget to 80K, I would try to see negotiate that with other benefits, right? So that can be from education to education reimbursements to travel expenses to food expenses or things like that. Or maybe like they sponsor your lunch every day, right? You can ask them to do that, like maybe give like a weights account or whatever. Or maybe they education wise they can sponsor a couple of courses for you, a couple of boot camps for you, because you being able to if you upskill while you are working at that company, that's a win for the company. You are going to, I mean, they are going to have a better employee for the same rate, right? So they would encourage that. And attending events, networking events, like the bearing the cost of that, that's a win for you too. So you get to travel and then meet more people. So those are some of the ways I would negotiate it, but I'd always be transparent about salary, because by the time they come to ask about the salary, they've already made a decision whether they're going to hire you or not. So it's something you can negotiate.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. Do you think I'm very new to this? I don't really know how this works. Should we, when we negotiate, for example, to decrease the salary for other benefits, should we ask for these benefits to be written in the contract, or a verbal agreement should be sufficient?
I would try to get it in writing. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the agreement, but at least an email confirming that would be good.
Okay, great.
Because sometimes it's an understanding, like if the team is very small, sometimes they don't always want to commit to things like that as well, because it all depends on how much budget they have, or rather how much runaway they have as a company. Some companies have a very small runaway, so they may be not open to things like that. But if the founder is good and he understands the value of these things, then they will try to make some arrangements, like figure out how to do that. So yeah, so it's better to get it in writing, but not at least like if they're not willing to put it on agreement, you can just get them to do it an email or something like that.
Yeah, okay, great. So yeah, GGS asks, as technical people, we usually focus on the technical aspects of the role and company. But I realize that it is very important to understand how companies and startups work, how they are funded, etc. How would we research that side of the interview and offer process?
Um, Stalking people on LinkedIn and Twitter. I actually like not from a recruitment perspective, but from a sales perspective, I'll tell you, right? Um, recruitment is, or like finding a job is somewhat like a sales thing, right? Somewhat like closing a deal, because two parties, one party is pitching their requirement to the other parties, pitching their skill set, and then say, hey, look, I'm competent for the job. Hire me, right? So before you go into the conversation, one, you need to know about the company. So that you know you do your homework and then figure out what they do, what are their recent achievements, like what are their gaps, how you're going to help them. Two, I would go to LinkedIn and then search for the company profile and then see the people who work in that company. And I would check for those people's profiles on Twitter to see what they have recently said. If first of all, try to figure out if they are on Twitter or not. If so, like the key individuals, I wouldn't just, let's say if it's a company like a really big company, I wouldn't look at like a full stack engineer what they have said. I would look at someone like a CTO or someone at a C level, what they have said, what they have done, what are they saying, the direction of the company, those kind of things. Not to say that the full stack engineer who's at a lower level of the company doesn't have a say in it. It's to say that, you want to understand things from a macro level, like, the direction of the company and then like some of the issues that you see. So, yeah, so that's something I would suggest. And then also just to see some PR articles, what's been released or said about the company, just doing a simple Google search or like a ChatGPT research would help you to get a better view of the company. Yeah, that's something I would suggest. And also you can also reach out to, like, when you go to LinkedIn, or you can see who are the other people who are following that company. So if you know anyone in those companies, you can always ask for a, like have a chat, and then if you have someone within your network who in that company, you can always get a recommendation. I know like some people that who has worked with us in the past has done that.
Okay, wonderful. Well, okay, we have another question from Tioslav. Why do you feel so strongly about using hyperlinks for profiles? I personally include the full URLs so recruiters can avoid clicking links if they're concerned about scams or malicious content.
Uh, you have a point there, because if you from because you guys are from a security background, I think that does make sense. Um, but what we see is like our argument for that is nobody needs to know HTTPS. Nobody needs to see the HTTPS://www link, LinkedIn, whatever, right? All they need to know is like, what's that account? And just like if it's GitHub that you're trying to show, just have the GitHub link and then just click on that and then they visit it. It's the idea is that or at least the big idea for this is that not showing unnecessary information on the CV so that the recruiter can really focus on what's important on your CV.
Yeah, I
Does that
agree.
make sense?
Mhm.
Right? Because you
In my
only have 2 pages, and in that 2 pages, you need to sort of show everything relevant about you, right? Nobody cares about this HTTPS. Like from a security point of view, I am fully with you on that, but like I'm just saying, from a reading point of view. So that's not important as long as the GitHub they can access GitHub really matters.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. We, as soon as I entered in the Web3 community, I realized that some people would just try to reach out to you to try to hack you and steal your funds. And I think that some peoples to which I send CVs feel the same way. And I've actually had someone once who asked me to uh, share the CV through GitHub because they don't want to download any PDF or things like that. And with GitHub, you can't, if you preview the PDF on GitHub, you cannot click on the links. So it gave me an idea, and what I did was updating my CV to keep to keep it the same way you helped me to do it. So at the first, the header, I have GitHub, Telegram, X, and if you click on it, you go on my profiles. But at the end of my CV, at the third page, I created a new page, and I have the links in plain text for people who don't want to click on anything and who even more on hyperlinks, so they can
Right.
copy and paste and check before that the text looks like the real website they're trying to reach to. So I think
Yep.
it's a nice thing that meets both worlds.
Yes. So one thing you have to also realize is that um, the people who get your CV, the first person to see your CV isn't going to be someone deeply technical. Most of the time, like unless it's a very small company you are applying to, then obviously the founder or the CTO, someone higher up the ladder will read it. But the bigger the company, the first person to read it will be someone from HR, because what they first do is they go through all the CVs that come through their system and then eliminate all the uh, low quality profiles. So they will, in their opinion, if they see a 3 to 4 page CV, that's something that's going to take away so much energy from them. So they will not give so much attention.
Okay.
Just something to keep in mind. I fully understand where you guys are coming from about clicking on links, but the reality is that most of the HR people aren't aware of these risks. So they wouldn't see it that way. Because like a good example would be, you know, you can easily create a fake LinkedIn profile, look very shiny or whatever. There's no validation to it. I can say I work for, Ethereum Foundation. No one's gonna validate that. So people can deceive you if they really want to. I mean, you guys know this better. Like, DPR is notoriously famous for, social engineering, these kind of things. So, but sadly, the reality is like I don't think the HR, a lot of HR people are, or at least people in the HR who the first people to see your CV are not aware of these risks.
Okay, I see. So maybe I will change my the way I do things by making my CV the most simple, the way you advise it. And if someone asks for the links because they can't reach it, then I will give them the idea I proposed before. But you see,
Yeah.
I think some people with the template you gave us, I feel like some people don't understand that we can click on the text, on the blue text to go to my GitHub, for example.
Mhm. Okay. We haven't really had any issues. Honestly, like or someone complaining about it, because it's a pretty standard norm. Like if it's on a Word document or a PDF, it's like hyperlinks are usually in blue and it's underlined.
We have one last question from Kioslav. So if someone needs to help writing a better CV or finding job, where should they contact you?
You could DM us on Twitter. If you go to RareTalent underscore XYZ, you can find us, or you could DM me or Pavani. My handle is guy.de, guy.de. Pavani is it's me, Madara. But if you go to RareTalent Twitter, and then you can find our profiles, and you can DM us. Our DMs are always open. Alternatively, you can apply to raretalent.xyz, and then your CV. In that platform, you have to fill an application, and then you have to attach your CV. We go through those CVs every week. We have a team of people who are going through those CVs every week. We review every single one of the CVs that we get. And even if you're rejected, we will always tell you why you're rejected. And we'll give you some reasons as well. We are very transparent on that. And if you are selected, then you will set up a call with mostly with Pavani. She's been championing that over the last 6 to 8 months. So you'll set up a call with Pavani, and she'll go through your CV, and then she'll give you feedback on how to fine tune it. And then once you refine it, you can send it to us. And then if everything's good, then we will add you to the talent pool. And every week we look at who are the available companies who are looking for jobs, and then we will connect you with those companies.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I think that's the end of our episode. So thanks a lot to both you, Gayantha and Pavani, for joining us and giving so many tips and wonderful ideas to become better for finding a new job. Do you have any last words for this episode?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you so much for having us. I'm glad you're doing this, because I think it's a much needed topic that needs to happen. Like, a lot of people don't give attention. Like I said earlier, people invest in their CV. So it's great to talk about this. Like I said, just by having a CV is not enough. Think about your distribution. Think about building a social profile. Because if you do that, you don't really need recruiters. I mean, not great for us as a company, but that's a reality. But if you still don't have a good social profile, then you can reach out to us, and we are happy to help you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And if you go to the RareTalent Twitter page as well, our pin post is there, like all of these tips I just spoke about. Our template is also there. You can have a look in our website if you need any extra help.
Yes, actually, yes. One thing that I completely forgot is, like, we provide this free CV template. If you check out the pin post on our RareTalent, at the end of that post, you will see Google Doc CV template. It's completely free. There's no login, there's no sign up, there's no gating. Typically with RareSkills, we don't gate anything. So you feel free to use that.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks a lot again. It was very interesting. I have a lot of work to do now. And have a great weekend, and see you later.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Take care.
Take care. Bye.